Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. The voices in your head. Now, some of you might be thinking that you don't have any voices in your head, and that's like for, people that might be unfortunately schizophrenic and things of that nature. But no, unfortunately, you're wrong. We all have voices in our head. See, what we need to realize is that we are a product of our environment. And part of that is those who raised us, our mothers, our fathers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, teachers, coaches, etc. All these people had a hand in raising us. And I mean, there's even that saying that it essentially takes a village, right? Sorry. And without even realizing it, for better or worse, we have these people's voices in our head, right? So just to give you an example, imagine you're a young man, of European descent, and really that doesn't matter because a lot of you listening to this are going to relate to this regardless of your ethnicity. Am I even saying that right? Jesus, what's wrong with me? Your background, and you're going to relate to this. I can almost guarantee it because it's not specific to European people, but nonetheless, you're a young European man who has a dream of being a dancer. That's right, a dancer. Now, you tell your parents that you have this dream of being a dancer. Now, more times than not, the parents are going to look at that child and say, listen, stop joking around. Like, let's be serious, Go to school, be a lawyer, be a doctor, even pick up a trade, be a mechanic, a plumber, an electrician. But a dancer? No. We will not have entertainers in our family. It is not a viable course of life to take. It's not a good career path. Do something good with your life. Like be a doctor, be a lawyer, like something like that. And like I said, a lot of different ethnicities. Yeah, that I said it right. Yeah. And I just screwed myself. A lot of backgrounds are going to have that same sentiment where they would tell their parents that they wanted to do something and it wouldn't be good enough for the family because it's not what the parents wanted for their kids. Fine. But see, the thing is as they go through life, that child inside their head doesn't stop saying it. Oh, we would have been such a great dancer. We would have been the best dancer. And then right after you having that thought, it's like your father's voice or your mother's voice or your aunt or your uncle's or someone's voice is going to enter the chat and say, hey, wait a minute. No. You're doing the right thing by going to school. You're doing the right thing by becoming a tradesman or a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. And essentially their voice is quietening our voice. So the thing that we wanted to do doesn't happen. And this doesn't just happen when we're kids. That's just when it starts. Because essentially this could happen throughout our whole lives. For instance, let's say you're in your 20s, getting yourself established in one way or another. Getting yourself established in one way or another. Okay. You have this amazing idea for a product or a service or a business you want to start. And you tell your friends and you tell your family. And just like when you were a kid, listen, it's a good idea, but it's not that good of an idea. Like you shouldn't necessarily gamble your whole future on this one idea that you have. You have a good job, like stick with your job, get promoted, like have a comfortable life. There's no need for you to risk your future on this, even though it might be the most amazing idea in the world. And you believe in yourself. You might hear these voices time and time again. And even if this idea wasn't a great one, Then you have another idea. And before you even tell anybody about it, you're already stuck in your head going, no, it's not worth it because, I'm building a life for myself and I'm going to live a comfortable life. And you're regurgitating the words that they said to you. So now their voices are in your head and you're not listening to yourself. And granted, sometimes these people might have a point and what they're saying to you might be, valuable, but that's not the best thing always because we're not listening to ourselves, we're listening to them. You're letting somebody else dictate how you live your life as opposed to you dictating yourself. Even if it's a shitty idea and you decide to go through with it, it's your choice, it's your idea, it's your baby. And you'll either make it work or you won't. And if it doesn't work, oh well. At least you will not regret it. And see, that's the big thing here, is that you don't want to go through life and then have a crap ton of regrets because of all these people's voices that you're hearing inside your head. And this goes even further from this. Now, this is more of the example that works with my whole thing here because it's actually people that I know and people that are going through this right now as we speak, where someone met their high school sweetheart, dated, got married right out of high school, and stayed with that person for a long period of time. Now, that person happened to be a narcissist, and I know we love to throw that word around. But unfortunately, there are a good number of them out there. Now, this person was with a narcissist. And what ended up happening is like throughout their whole marriage and throughout the whole time together, they were never good enough. As per, the narcissistic handbook, they were never good enough. You are lucky to be with me because nobody else wants you. Like, you're lucky to be with me. Like, I'm doing you a favor by being with you. Like, that's the narcissistic talk. And drilling that into somebody's head day in and day out and day in and day out. And I mean, I've even talked about it before, affirmations and even negative affirmations, and you telling yourself these things and then them end up becoming true because you're saying them to yourself every day and reinforcing that idea. Well, the same thing can happen in a relationship where you're with someone and they drill it in your head every day. You are not good enough. You are a piece of shit. You need to do this better, need to do that better. And then what ends up happening? You start to believe it. You start to get stuck into this world that, oh my God, I have to be with them because they're the only person in the world that wants me. They're the only person in the world that will accept me. And then you might actually call it a life. And I'm sure there's a shit ton of people out there that are stuck in this situation and don't even realize it. And I mean, I hope that they listen to this and it sort of wakes them up a little bit. And I don't mean to turn people's lives upside down, but if that's the case, then that's the case. But here's the problem. Because these voices get stuck into our head, even after we're done with that relationship, let's just say one day this person woke up and got a divorce, said, you know what, I had enough of this shit. And they move on with their life. Now, they might not even have a low self-esteem. They might have a fantastic self-esteem. But when it comes to another relationship, right away, the minute that they start talking to someone, they start to feel inferior. They start to feel not good enough because they're hearing that person's voice inside their head. They're being reminded by themselves, they're being reminded that they're not good enough, that they will never find another human being that loves them and appreciates them. So what ends up happening? Well, in some cases, they're going to not trust what someone says. So if you meet someone that's in this position and you say to them, hey, you know what? Like, you're a really fun person to talk to. You're really amazing. Like, I really enjoy our time together. They're going to look at you and be like, no, this guy's lying. Like, there's no way this person is lying. Because inside my own head, I don't deserve this type of treatment. There's only one person that apparently liked me, and I'm not good for anybody. That's one way that things can happen. There's other ways too. Unfortunately, you might have this belief that you're not good enough, and then you find another narcissist. And see, narcissists, they love to love bomb. So what they end up saying is now they start love bombing you. Oh my God, where have you been all my life? Like, how have I lived without you? How have I gone this much time without you? You were the most incredible human being in the world. And because they're saying all this great stuff, even though they barely know you, it's not warranted under any circumstance. You're sucking it up because you've been told for such a long time, even after your relationship ended, because you were still telling yourself inside your head that you weren't good enough. So you've been going through this, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And here comes someone, a knight in shining armor, so to speak, or a woman in shining armor. Because don't get you wrong, there are a lot of narcissistic women out there too. There's a ton of them. And I don't think that they get enough attention put on them because, as we know, men don't like to talk, which is unfortunate. And I think this is, by the time this goes out, it should be end of June. And June is the Men's Mental Health Month. So, you know what? Listening to this, we need to talk. We need to talk to each other. We need to talk to therapists and coaches. We need to open up. Because things like narcissistic women don't get talked enough about. Because we assume that all women are these beautiful, fragile things that we need to take care of. But in reality, that's not always the case. Okay, where was I again? Yeah, love bombing. So you're getting love bombed. They're essentially feeding you all this information about how amazing you are. They're validating you. You feel seen. You feel loved. But they've known you for like 10 minutes. Doesn't make sense. When you look at it logically, it's like, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. Like, how could someone have these feelings for me already when we just met? They essentially can't. And there's, other things at play here. And chances are they're a narcissist because that is like the major telltale sign of someone who is a narcissist or at least has a lot of narcissistic tendencies. But again, because we've been telling ourselves for so long that we're not good enough, because we're hearing the voice of our previous partner telling us that we're not good enough, we believe them because it feels good. It fills that hole inside of us rather than us taking care of this and, fixing ourselves. We do this instead, and we find another person that fills these holes. You can take that for whatever you want, dirty-minded person. But anyways, and then we essentially get stuck into this vicious loop because at the beginning, they're going to start to validate us, right? Because that's what narcissists do. And I know this is a podcast about the voices in our head and not about narcissists, so to speak. But this is where we're going with this right now. So that's what ends up happening. And we get stuck in a vicious loop. And then what we end up doing is just going from one narcissist to the next narcissist to the next narcissist to the next narcissist. And because we get off, because we love feeling that love bombed, because we need it. When we meet someone who is stable and normal, and this is even going back to the other episode a couple of weeks ago where I was talking about how some people find stable people boring. Now stable people aren't giving us what we want or what we need. Because they're stable and normal, they're not going to praise you like a narcissist would right off the bat. They're going to actually take their time and want to get to know you for who you are. And they might give you compliments on being funny or beautiful or handsome or whatever the case is. But they're not going to shower you like a narcissistic person would, that you are the greatest thing in the world, You're the best thing to ever happen to me since sliced bread. That's not going to happen with a normal person. Therefore, you're never going to date someone that's normal. You're never going to want them because initially, they're not going to give you that feeling that a narcissist will. And unfortunately, being in a stable relationship, which is what will lead you down this path, it's not going to happen for you. All because you hear these voices in your head. So this is what you're going to need to do. You're going to have to become more self-aware. You're going to have to take the time and be able to decipher from what your voices are saying, your subconscious, versus the voices of all the other people that have come before you in your life and have put things into your head. Now, like I said, not all of them are bad. You know, our parents' voice in our head to, look both ways before crossing the street. Like, that's not a bad thing. And I guarantee that when you cross a street and you don't look both ways and a car honks its horn at you, the first thing that you think of is probably one of your parents or somebody like a guardian telling you to look both ways before crossing a street. Like, it's almost like a flashback that happens. So not everything that we've learned growing up is obviously bad, and all the voices in our head are bad, but some of them are. And this is where being self-aware is really going to have to come in handy here. And you're going to have to really figure out like what's actually good for you and what's not. And I mean, in the consideration of relationships, you really have to think here, is this logical? And I know I'm a big man of logic. I love logic. To me, it's the one thing that always makes sense. Is this logical? Have I known this person long enough for them to compliment me this way? Are they complimenting me this way because they're a narcissist, or are they, just really taken by me? Because that can happen too. And you really have to think about it and do the work, This is where journaling really helps, and writing down your thoughts and feelings, about the way you feel, what made you feel that way, what situations are happening, what you're thinking, what are the voices in your head saying, because at least that way, maybe you can read it and look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like me. You know who that sounds like? That sounds like my ex-boyfriend. Or you know who that sounds like? That sounds like my dad. Or that sounds like my mom. That doesn't necessarily sound like me. And then you can discern which voices are yours, which are those of your family, which of those are your friends, which of those are your exes, and which ones have your best interests at heart. Because at the end of the day, obviously our parents and our family members, for the most part, I know not for everybody, but for the most part, they're trying to teach us to be good people and to be successful in life, however we may deem what success is. But nonetheless, it's always a force of good, but it's their good. So some of the things might be from their point of view. Some of the things might not agree with the times of today or with the person that you grew up to become. And things might have to shift a little bit. But nonetheless, you have to learn to be more of your own person, especially in the case of those who have been damaged by narcissists or people with narcissistic tendencies, and people who essentially, because it's not always just narcissists. I mean, sometimes it could be jealous boyfriends or jealous girlfriends who literally try to make us feel ugly and insecure so that we would never go out and cheat on them. And I think that it's majority narcissists as well, but still, the benefit of the doubt that not everybody's like that, or not every person like that is a narcissist. Let's give the world some hope. But either way, they try to break you down and put that voice in your head purposely so you don't cheat on them. And then even though after the relationship's over, you're still carrying around this trauma inside you. And again, you may not be someone with low self-esteem or low confidence. You might have high confidence. You might think the best of yourself. But just when it comes to thinking of somebody else being a part of your life, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm not good enough now. And that's not always the truth. In fact, that's usually not the truth, because as I've mentioned before, it's up to them to decide whether they like you or not for you to decide. Because if you want to decide, then you can just end it right then and there and move on with your life. But if you're deciding for somebody else and not giving them a chance to like you or love you or get to know you, whatever the case is, then it's your own fault. And it's the same thing that if you start falling in love with other people that are love bombing you, it's your own fault. And this is why it's so important to do the work. It's why it's so important that if you need help, you get help. You talk to coaches or therapists, etc., etc. Because the whole point of this, the whole point of me even doing this is to make you more aware of what's going on inside your head and the world around you, so that you might be able to wake up, become self-aware, and maybe realize some of the things that I'm talking about and say, hey, you know what? That does sound familiar. I think I do that. So that maybe the next time it happens, you realize it. You're like, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. This person shouldn't feel this way about me so soon. This is a red flag. And then maybe move on to somebody who is more stable and loving and better for you overall. I think I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to message me. You can message me on Instagram. That's at Joey Francis, or on my website. That's joeyfrancis.com, JoeyFrancis.com. And there you can, send me a message, ask me questions, comment, give me some ideas, as well as buy my books and my guided journal. Because see, if you don't know how to journal or don't know what to write, maybe a journal that's a bit of a guide can help you out. Okay, enough with the selfless promotion. Okay, words, English, apparently not a good day for them. Nonetheless, again, thank you so much. And remember, love yourself. And don't listen to the voices in your head, Listen to yourself. And on that note, till next time.